killing Bush. I've got him at gunpoint. Check the missiles and pull a full evacuation on your side.
They're pulling them out.
911. Advise ready for camp.
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
And this week, our guest comes to us via an email submission. Am I right, Chuck?
Yeah, originally, technical difficulty, standby, motherfucker. Okay, so originally he had wrote in asking us to go over a question in locker room, and so then he messaged the booking email, and I quickly got back to him because this is how a bio should go, right? Super humble, by the way. I thought it was funny. He's like, nothing crazy. I did some fun stuff. Hold on, my kid is acting like a little heathen asshole. Hold on, stand by. Hey, shut up.
This is the behind the scenes of the show.
It's awesome.
Okay,
I am extremely humble, by the way.
Okay, so
Pleasure's
super.
all ours.
He's very humble. Okay, nothing crazy. Did some fun stuff in the Army. All right, cool. I'm like, all right, what is this? Army Airborne Combat Engineer, 6 years, 9 years, and the National Guard. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it was so whatever. And then the National Guard, whatever. But
Yeah.
one deployment to Afghanistan, and I was like, okay. And then you can watch it on Discovery Plus. It's called Heroes to Hell's Highway, and I've actually watched it. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, he has done a lot of really cool shit, and I'm like, humble. That's humility right there. One, not to mention his deployment was probably like 13, 14 months over there instead of like a regular 6-7 month Marine Corps deployment. So I mean, yes, he did one deployment, but that was probably a year.
It was the equivalent of, yeah.
That's a long fucking
2.5.
deployment. Like
Yeah.
that's it's so long. They're like, hey, we're gonna send you and give you some R&R,
Yeah.
halfway through, unless you're probably the boot and you get home like the first month, and you're like, great, and I have another 12 months of this. But anyway, so he did that, and I'm really pumped to hear that. And then he said he worked as a security guard for a nuclear power plant, which is pretty cool. And he likes
that's
working
no
on
joke.
motorcycles.
That's no joke. I can tell you that from experience. I can't wait to talk about that.
They were followed around by a fucking film crew. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that too. It's like, because we've had somebody who's been on cops, but not somebody who's had a film crew follow them around in country. So Brandon, welcome to the show.
crap. How
How
much of
are
that
you?
did you not hear?
Say again?
I was
What?
on mute.
No,
how
we
long?
heard.
No,
a
I
lot
heard
of
it.
You were good.
Oh.
So yeah. The deployment was actually only 9 months. I think we were one of the first units to get 9 months. And
That's like unheard of.
yeah, so I think the reason they did 9 months, because I think at 10 you have to get R&R. So like, if we give you 9, then we don't need to give you R&R. So
That sounds like the government way. Hey, when do we
Yeah,
have to
pretty much.
break you? At 10 months. Okay, we're gonna give you 9.5.
yeah, pretty much.
9
That's
months and
like-
27 days.
It's like, how many
Get fucked.
hours before we have to give you benefits? 40 hours a week. Here's 39.
What a dick. That's a dick move right there.
That is a dick move. So 9 months deployment. And why don't we start with what brought you to the military? How did you get there, as we start with all of our guests?
It's just something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. Don't really know why. Watched a lot of like Top Gun, Full Metal
Yeah.
Jacket and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And didn't really like, oh, I want to be Army or I want to be Marines or whatever. I just wanted to go in the military. So wanted to go infantry. Mom, because I was only 17. Mom said, nope, not doing it. So recruiter's like, what else you want to do? I was like, I want to blow shit up. He's like, I got you. So he pointed me the direction of combat engineer. And I'm sure my mom's gonna hear this, but lied hardcore to my mom because he said infantry goes in, clears everything, and then we go. In reality, it's the complete opposite. We go clear the route and everything for infantry.
Yeah. Sorry,
And
Mom.
then yeah, pretty much. And then after that, he's like, you want to jump out of planes too? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. He signed me up for airborne. And then yeah, did all that training. Got sent up to Alaska. My first unit was a 23rd Engineer Company up there. there for a little bit, and then they sent us to Afghanistan. I'm like, hey, you're gonna have the Discovery Channel follow you. Cool.
That's really cool. How tore up? Well, how confused was your mom? She was probably super happy. Like, yeah, you're going to Alaska. It's so far from Afghanistan. You're like, and by the way, we're spinning
Surprise.
up and we're popping out to Afghanistan.
Ah,
Yeah.
the Army engineers. He's going to be the nerd of the Army and not see any action. Nope.
Right?
Ah, he's going to Alaska. He won't be anywhere near Afghanistan. Also, nope.
Yeah, it's actually so. Most people, when they deploy, they go to Germany and then they go to Manus and then wherever. We actually just went straight over the Arctic Circle, like the North Pole, and was right in Manus in a couple hours. So
Well,
That's
you were
kinda cool.
already there, so
yeah, pretty much.
yeah. So you 17, you decide to go in, after seeing one too many action movies.
Yeah.
And was it everything you expected? Well, first of all, did the recruiter like tell you? I mean, engineers, like, because growing up, I heard Army Corps of Engineers, and you're like, fucking nerds. And then you realize how badass the Army Corps of Engineers are and the shit they do. And then you're like, oh, we get like all the fun toys, and like we're out at the front in the thick of shit.
Yeah, no, I had a rough idea because that stupid recruitment video they show you, like, this is what your job is, and just showed them building bridges, diffusing landmines and stuff. Nothing crazy. And once I actually got to the unit, and they showed us all the vehicles and everything that we'd get to drive, and actually how we did our job, I was like, oh, this is way cooler. So
That
I'm
tank
actually happy
that
surprised.
that has that grate in the center that goes and like picks it up and blows it up while you're driving it is sick. And I got to tell you, the best course I ever went through in the Marine Corps was an engineer course where we got to learn how to blow shit up professionally, and that was the best.
Yeah, nobody wants to blow shit up unprofessionally. Come on.
No,
Well, the demo ranges are even better because after you go through all your training, everything that you're supposed to do, you always have leftovers. So you get to have fun ways to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to waste anything.
Oh, no. We find down logs, wrap them up with deck cord, or we made it's called a Copenhagen charge. You had a can of dip, fill it with some deck cord, put it around a doorknob, and that's how you get through the door.
big boom.
So,
Yeah.
what's the coolest thing you've blown up?
I mean, downrange blowing up IEDs is kind of cool because you never really knew how big they were until they went off. Like, wow, that was massive. So that was kind of cool, but I mean, nothing like too crazy.
I saw a video. It was one of my favorite videos. It's set to
IEDs.
Yeah, right. It's set to an AFI song, and a buddy of mine brought it home and showed it to me. And it was a guy who you guys may have seen it. It was making the rounds for a while. It was a guy who was driving towards an Iraqi police checkpoint where the U.S. military had backed him up, and he was coming at a high rate of speed, and they were getting ready to engage him. And then dumb shit loses control of his little Daihatsu or whatever the shit hatchback they were driving in Iraq, and rolls it, and then it lands on its wheels, but he's all fucked up from the crash, and the steering wheel ends up pinning his leg down, so he needs to be extricated from the vehicle. But at this point they're like, what the hell? So they send Johnny Five out, and the camera footage then switches to Johnny Five's camera, and Johnny Five gets up, and there's this dude, and he's all stressed out sitting in the car, and they see a fucking detonator in his hand. And then they send Johnny Five back, to look in the back of the hatchback, and there's just a massive IED of unexploded ordnance and propane tanks and all kinds of shit, dude. Kitchen sink. It was crazy. And then they bring Johnny Five back and get a little aluminum box, and Johnny Five goes out and sets the aluminum box right under his seat of his hatchback, and they detonate him without detonating the IED. And then they collect the IED and they go detonate that out on the range. And it was almost merciful because the IED just, kind of poof, he was gone, but he was still intact. When that, or the aluminum box, when the IED was set off, it was like massive, huge, like, dude, What was he trying to blow up? Those things are insane. Some of the explosives that they can create. And it just made me think about it when you said you had no idea how big it was going to be, because they set this thing off and we're like, holy shit, that was huge.
Yeah, people think they're dumb, but they are extremely smart. They know how to blow some shit up.
Yeah. Yeah. They rival any redneck. I mean, they're, they are the Middle Eastern rednecks, really. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's armed. They all know how to make a bomb. Oh, they all got the beards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Desert rednecks. Well, so you then you go to get deployed to Afghanistan. What was that like? Talk us through that. Did the camera crew go with you all the way through gearing up, or just did they meet you when you got there?
So we were there for probably about a month ish, maybe 6 weeks or so before they finally followed us and got over there. Like I said in the email, though, one thing they didn't catch, probably my highlight of my deployment, was a helicopter crash.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were in a Chinook coming in. It was 1 week to the day that we actually got to Afghanistan. So we got there June 15th of 12, June 21st. We were flying out to our fob. And then, yeah, the helicopter, I don't really know how much I can say. Some shit failed on it, and it literally just fell out of the sky like a ton of bricks.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
from
that
what
was,
altitude?
I couldn't tell you. I was inside of it.
It was
I didn't
high.
know.
It was just
Yeah.
high. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, well, welcome to Afghanistan. I guess this is how it's going to go. But for the most part, it's a pretty chill deployment. Nothing, what I call nothing too crazy, but
Other than the
Yeah.
Chinook crash at the beginning, it was fine.
yeah, no, you just got over that real quick. All right. So
Well, I mean, I guess
There.
rip the Band-Aid off early, right?
yeah, oh yeah, no, it was great.
Once you survive a helicopter crash in the Chinook a week in, everything's gravy at that point. Like, oh no, I'm good.
Yeah, I survived that. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But
It sets that bar pretty high.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like flying.
No, I will not get into a helicopter voluntarily. When I got to Bragg, my unit kept trying to send me to air assault. I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, why not? I was like, because I crashed in a helicopter. And they didn't believe me. I was like, look at my medical records. It says, so I'm not doing it. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But
Dude.
not doing it.
Well, I other than the helicopter crash, I can't wait to hear what you've got in store for us. So the floor is yours, man. Let's talk about that deployment.
Okay. So yeah, once we got there, did a lot of route clearance. Naturally, a lot of driving really slow. And then once the camera came, so they were originally, so if you watch the show, they follow second and third platoon. I was second. They were originally just supposed to follow third, but apparently good deployment makes the boring TV show. So they would go do the routes, clear some stuff, nothing too crazy going on.
Right.
They got bored. So like, oh, second platoon's been finding all this shit. Like, let's go with them. So then they started following us. They said it was relatively chill. I mean, so yeah. I'm trying to think. Sorry.
That's okay.
Fuck. So if you watch the show, because it aired while we were still downrange. So if you watch the show, we actually got a good laugh because some of the scenes they would splice from different IED finds onto one. So I think one of the episodes it shows that they actually dug underneath the road to place an IED. It was like a paved highway. They dug underneath it. It was roughly the size of a basketball. Went across next to the highway. We saw it. We ended up, they didn't put anything in there, but we blew the hole up so they couldn't put anything access denial. And yeah, in that scene they show like 3 different shots. It was kind of
Of different stuff.
Yeah. So if you watch and you
Freaking
pay
TV
close
for you.
attention, you'll see that yeah, they did some shady shit. I guess kind of shady. But one thing that stands out with them, because they were stupid. I mean, they're civilians, not really trained for that. But we went on mission. I want to. It might even be the first episode in that show. The LT's truck hit like an AP mine or like some rebar or something, pop the tire. And so once we cleared off the area, got everybody out of that truck into their respective trucks, the cameraman, whose job is to hold the camera, realized he left his camera in the downed vehicle. It's like, hey, can I go back and get it? We're like, no, jackass, there's IEDs all over the ground. You can't just get out of the truck and run and get it. You should have, yeah. It's just stupid shit like that.
So they blew up a camera? Or you guys blew up a camera?
No, the cameraman left his camera in the truck that was down from the AP mine.
Oh,
Oh,
Got transferred to another truck and wanted to go back and get it. Like, no, that's not how this works.
so was your family at home watching your deployment?
Yeah, pretty much. They were watching it while I was still over there.
Wow, that's got to be did you hear from them about it? Were they?
Yeah, they just thought it was all cool. Like, yeah, we saw you. So in the back of my head, I have like some blonde spots. So that's how they always pick me out. Like, oh, there's the spots. Found them. But, it was definitely a shock to my mom, who, like I said, thought infantry went in and cleared the way. And here we are essentially in front of them.
You're like, oops. Oh well.
Yeah. Surprise.
Sorry, mom. You're not the first person a recruiter lied to, mom.
Yeah.
how many
So-
IEDs did you do? Like clear?
Yeah.
Like through the whole deployment.
Yeah.
God damn. But I guess probably at least 50 or so.
Well, that's a good amount.
Yeah.
Any of them daisy chained?
Yeah, 50 over a 9-month period. That's
That's a good amount.
Yeah. Well, we went out just about every day. So, and yeah, so there was one daisy chains. They actually went over this in the show. So there was one right outside of our fob. Like, it's our fob, like a quarter mile to the main highway, and they put it right there. So we went out there, cleared it, and then as we were clearing that, we found a secondary IED that they apparently didn't see. One reason we saw it, so they have these giant white blimps over there they use to see everything. Well, I would love to shake this motherfucker's hand, but apparently somebody told the Afghanis over there that these are mind control devices. So, so whenever the blimp was up, because you'd have to take it down for like inclement weather and everything. So whenever it was up, that's when they would do stuff. Because I guess kind of like an FU to the man, like, oh, we don't need your shit, but we would catch them every time.
right. They really are desert rednecks.
Yeah, no, they're not smart. But I would love to shake that dude's hand that told him.
Wow. So going out every day, what was the craziest thing that you encountered? I mean, you guys had a film crew following you.
Yeah. It would definitely be the drivers. So you'd get these, they'd be the shit that they would stack on top of those buses. They're like giant Greyhound buses, but they'd be rolling around with like 2 or 3 cars on top. Don't know how they got them up there, but there would be cars on top of the Greyhound buses, and they would drive them like 100 miles an hour, like right past a convoy. Yes, that was definitely culture shock, just seeing the way they drive.
And how like is it just you stay the fuck out of the way?
Yeah, I mean, they're because we said route clearance, not very fast, so we're going relatively slow, but they did not care. And if there's no room on the road, they would go on the dirt road next to it. Like, fuck you, we're going wherever we got to go. So,
I guess they're like, this is our hood, you know. We don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They probably know where to drive to avoid that stuff because they helped put it there.
I would not doubt it at all. So
Just follow him.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, we're safe. Just our job is done.
So now, what are the typical? We talk about the tank with the grate that clears the IEDs. When those things go off, right? You hit one, it goes off. Whatever. What's that like in there? Like, you know, I can't imagine it's too pleasant, and it's kind of, you know, a bit of an unpleasant surprise.
I personally have never been blown up, so I couldn't like say for sure. But the way they're built, with our deployment, we were extremely lucky. We didn't lose anybody.
Wow.
So they were built very strong. Like that V-shaped hole is a game changer. So when the blast comes up, it just goes whoop, right out the side. And then especially with the Huskies, so they're your single man cabs in the front that had the GPR and everything. The way they built those is you can just take the cab off of the frame, like it's got the wheels and everything, and just put it on something else. They're essentially meant to be blown up and changed out.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
But-
I mean, it's like Legos, but
Yeah, like multi-million-dollar Legos.
modular. Yeah, modular, like, you know, replaceable parts. But it's crazy that we've gotten to that point technology wise. I remember when the tanks with the active armor were first, you know, coming out, and they would explode out to try and repel the incoming rounds and stuff like that kind of level of sophistication. It's just crazy. And I mean, the engineers, you guys are at the front of all the cool toys, aren't you? I mean, you guys
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, well, anything that's supposed to blow you up, we got that. I'm like, yeah, try this. You should be good. All right, we got you.
So you and EOD worked hand in hand, right?
Yeah, so we can BIP or blow in place up to a certain size charge, and then after that, we do have to call EOD. But yeah, there has been a couple times we had to wait for him, so that was like an all day just waiting for EOD to get out there.
In theater.
Yeah, in theater.
What was that like? Like, what'd you find?
So we were going down Highway 1. We weren't even like trying to do deliberate route clearance. We were just going to another fob. So in that show during that time, we did a lot of work with the British and the Danish and everything. So we would just go to their fob, stay the night, and then go out to wherever they were doing to help them out. So we were just headed out there, and it was, I think our max is 155. So I think it was like 2 or 3 155 just on the side of the road that we found. So yeah, I had to call them.
Was it
that's an
wired?
EOD.
Yeah. So when I was going there, it was a lot of RCIEDs, your radio controlled. The one I actually found was an RCIED. Just had an antenna sticking up next, right next to this old poppy field. Had just one poppy plant with an antenna wrapped around it. When we dug it up, it was probably about 2 fire extinguishers with the bottom cut off full of HME, homemade explosives. That was a big one. But yeah.
And that's obviously EOD. Do they blow that in place, or do they take that away, or
No, we bipped that.
how big was that?
Oh, it was nice. It was a good one.
Blew half
Felt
the
it in your
poppy field
chest?
away.
Yeah. Well, it's because those vehicles are supposed to be airtight, but every time a blast goes off, you just see air and dust come out from every crevice. It was crazy. And on the one that was in front of the base. So it was actually an A&A. So we were waiting for EOD for that one. So like I said, we found the 2. Well, one of the A&A picks up one of the charges, just grabs it off the ground and just starts carrying it to us. We're like, no, buddy. What are you doing? Like, you got just put that back. So he's like, okay. So he takes it, puts it in the back of his truck, which I think was like a Toyota Hilux or something, just drives away. Like, whoa, where's that guy going? So
Well, if you don't want it, I'm going to take it.
yeah, still good. We'll use it
I
later.
have a tree stump to get rid of. I
Now
can't.
you got a V bid just rolling down the highway. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Not smart.
No.
So what's
Wow.
the most fun you had over there? I mean, obviously, you know, like everybody likes to downplay. Yeah, you know, we found a bunch of, like, you're like, yeah, we found like 50 IDs. Yeah, we blow some big shit up. Right? What sticks out to you as like, okay, dude, this was the best? Like,
It's a tough fucking question. I don't know. It was just the whole experience. Like I said, you got the brotherhood with everybody, spending Christmas and Thanksgiving with everybody, the crazy drivers, getting paid to blow shit up. Like, in my head, that's the best fucking thing. Just the whole thing.
yeah, your whole experience. So you really didn't hate your deployment. You kind of,
No, I loved it. That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I got out, was because everything was winding down. and nobody was deploying. So I was like, fuck this. I signed up to do shit. Now I'm just picking up cigarette butts in the parking lot. Like, I'm out later.
You're like, I was picking up IEDs. Now I'm picking up cigarette butts. This is bullshit. Did you get to build anything cool?
No, we were not that kind of engineer.
Uh,
We just strictly route clearance, blow shit up. Some some breaching rounds like at the range and shit.
so they
Oh.
showed you all these cool videos of engineers building stuff, and they were like, yeah, but that's not you.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we built one bridge in basic. Like, oh, we showed you. Now, bye. So like, okay. But I'm fine with that.
And you
Yeah.
got your airborne tab, and then got in a helicopter crash and said, fuck that.
Yeah. Like, planes don't freak me out. It's just helicopters. I have 26 jumps, which would be higher, but I have a lot of scratches. Yeah, I love jumping.
Did you ever get to the point where you get to pack your own chute, or was it just strictly static?
No, it was strictly static. That was like for the riggers and everything. I mean, I did do one down in Orlando when I lived down there, so free fall, but as far as the army wise, it was all static line.
Oh, so your free fall jump was a civilian jump.
Yeah.
How does that work when you're there? Because I know with a lot of these schools, like you have to do a tandem if it's just a one-time thing. But if you want to actually skydive by yourself, you have to go through multiple jumps, like classes, all that kind of stuff. So how does that work when you have like Army airborne certification static jumps? Do you still have to go through all the classes and stuff like that?
From what I understand, yes. There's one part, I think it's like ground training or something. There's one part that because you're airborne, you don't have to do. So you don't have to take all the classes, but you do have to do most of them. Because when you jump static line, everything's pulled for you. You just hang on and hope your chute opens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all in the Army's hands at that point.
Yeah, which is quite frightening. I had one time when I probably should have pulled my reserve, but I didn't. And I looked down and I'm much lower than everybody. It was like, fuck, I should have pulled my reserve. But yeah.
But it opened and
Yeah.
Really
it's
slow.
all good.
Yeah. Really slow.
Ever see any like, because I always see those crazy videos on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram of like the army jumping in and like just in training and stuff. And one dude hit a fucking billboard, the other one hit a house, the other, like all this crazy shit. And then you always see the tag at the end, this isn't service connected, or your knees aren't, or your back isn't service connected,
Oh
or
my
whatever,
God.
for guys that did shit like that. Have you ever seen any of those crazy like mishaps where you're like, oh shit, that was gnarly?
Yeah. So I want to say, because we did a jump for German jump wings, and I don't know why, but so we would go to the DZ, we would get geared up and everything, load up on the plane there. It would take off. And just throughout the day, they were getting closer and closer to the trees. By the end of the day, I think we had one dude land on some bleachers, and then like 2 or 3 people land in the trees, and they were stuck up there. And they're just all day getting closer and closer to it. Like,
They all okay, right?
yeah, no, everybody was fine. I mean, we get training on if we get stuck
Yeah,
on the
getting
trees. how
hang
to get
harness
down and
syndrome, no
everything.
big deal.
Yeah.
It's like that guy in there's the church in France has like a monument to him, and he's immortalized in a movie, I think The Longest Day. But he was a paratrooper on D-Day, and his parachute, he landed basically hooked on the steeple of a church. So he's hanging on the side of a building like during D-Day. Just, hey guys, I'm kind of stuck up here. Anyone want to help me out?
Yeah, there's no way of getting down from that one.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about trees, okay, at least with the tree you have a fighting chance. But it's a famous, I can't remember what the dude's name is, but he was stuck to the church, and I don't even know for how long, but it was immortalized. It was 82nd Airborne, and so I think he pretended to be dead for 2 hours just because like the Germans were walking around.
Whoa.
They took him prisoner and all that, but it's one of those things where like worst case scenario is
I bet
we all
those
see
2
the
hours
video-
felt forever.
oh my god, I can't even imagine. unless he fell asleep, and then it was easy to play dead. But
As long as he
Yeah.
doesn't snore.
yes, soldiers can play dead anywhere, right? They can fall asleep just about anywhere.
I wish I still had that skill.
Yeah, you do kind of lose. Like I used to be able to, like, as a cop, you can like pick and choose. You're like, okay, I need a power nap, and then you go home and you power nap. But when you need to like sleep, you're like, oh, I'm off duty, I can go to sleep. Nope, not happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the jumps in the plane was the best sleep I ever got. Just the rumbling from the motors and that constant white noise. Slept so good.
And then until you got that wake up call, get the fuck out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think a lot
So-
of it when you're like, oh, you're in the military, you can sleep anywhere. You're like, yeah, but I was also getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning,
Yeah,
going and doing movements, and then
yeah.
by like noon, 10 o'clock, noon, you're like, fuck, you're just sitting down, your pack's on the ground, and then you put your Kevlar behind you and you're like rested back like this, and you're like, all right, cool. And you just pass out and people take photographs like they can sleep anywhere. Or you're sleeping on a bus. You're like, yeah, but that's because we've been up since 2 or 3 doing fucking movements and getting our gear and doing other bullshit. And
Yeah, it
Like,
wasn't so much
12
sleep
hours
as
before that.
passing out. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Did you prefer doing the engineer stuff or doing the airborne stuff?
I think long term it would be engineer. Just 'cause my body's paid for all the airborne stuff now. But the airborne stuff, when it went right, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody
looking-
have to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. At the time it sucked. You have so much weight strapped to you, you have to walk backwards. But looking back at it, it was a lot of fun.
Everybody I've talked to, we've had a guest on the show. He was a police explorer of mine. He went airborne, and they all talk about the toll it takes on your body. And I mean, figure it. You go from jump out of a plane to a static line yanking you, and then the landing isn't exactly controllable or fun.
No, so every time I was coming down, I was like, I'm going way too fast, but you go just slow enough so you don't break anything. If you do the proper parachute landing fall or PLF.
right, in theory, with all the gear on.
and that's
Which-
to get in quick if you have to jump into a hot landing zone.
Yeah. So that way they don't
Right.
shoot at you for long.
Right. It's skydiving. You're like, oh, let's enjoy the trip down. Parachuting, they're like, you need to get the fuck down.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Like, we're
Right.
gonna make a big hole in the top of your chute.
I will say jumping in Alaska though, the softest landings. Come down, it's like landing in a lazy boy. It's amazing.
Because all the snow.
All the snow. It's like 4 feet of snow. Getting up, however, is a bitch because you go to turn around and like put your hand down to stand up and you just sink right through. But the landing itself is great.
Did you like Alaska?
Oh, I loved it. If you're an outdoorsy person, Alaska is fucking great because in the wintertime I was snowboarding every weekend. In the summertime I was fishing every weekend. I was drinking every night. So, but if you're not an outdoorsy person, you'll hate it because there's just not much up there.
Well, except the outdoors. It's Alaska.
Yeah. I think right before I left, they just got a B-dubs. So that was like the hot spot for a little bit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
Yeah, especially when there's nothing around. So where's the base in Alaska at? Like,
So the one I was at, Fort Richardson, is right outside of Anchorage.
okay,
So
so it's
you
not
got-
too bad.
Yeah, but you did have I think it was Wainwright, Fort Wainwright. That's like 9 hours of north. They didn't have shit. So every once in a while they would come down if they had an extended weekend just to see some civilization.
Because
Um,
so let's see, where's Fort Wainwright, Alaska? I'm looking this up because I want to just see how far out it is. And because Anchorage, for those of you that don't understand Alaska, Anchorage is, relatively close to the Gulf of Alaska. It's right on a bay that leads out to the Gulf of Alaska, I'm pretty sure. So it's coastal ish. Oh yeah, but Fort Wainwright, that's like right in the middle. It's not like too far north, but it's definitely landlocked.
So
And-
that is about a 9 hour difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that far because when my wife went up there, she's like, "Oh, let's go to this place," and it was somewhere around Fort Greely, which is like almost halfway between. Like, babe, that's like 7 hours away. She's like, "Oh my god, yeah." Kind of forget how big Alaska is.
Yeah, I mean, it's bigger than Texas.
Twice as big. Oh, and there's so Saturdays in like the spring and summertime, they have like a little like a farmer's market. And the competition between Alaska and Texas is ridiculously funny. You get shirts all the time. Like if you cut Alaska in half, Texas would be the third largest state. It's great.
It's hilarious.
Wow.
It's like shade they're throwing at each other. So when you were deployed, you're not from Alaska, obviously, but you were you're stationed there, and then when you get done, you go back to Alaska, and or did you get sent somewhere else?
So when I got back, went to Alaska. I was there for about another 3 months, and I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then I was there until I was done.
And that's where you were picking cigarette butts up.
Yeah, that was great.
So when you're as an engineer, you're out there, you're ahead of the infantry. Do you guys get the brunt of the Haji attacks, the insurgents coming after you, or do they see how heavily armored your vehicles are and not even bother? Like, how does that work for you guys as far as being like not the tip of the spear, but you're being the part of the spear that like goes ahead of the tip?
So for us personally, they didn't really fuck with us. I don't know if it's because they saw, because I think it was like 10, 12 vehicles deep. So we're not like a small unit going down the highway.
Right.
We did have some big ones like the Buffalo, which is, I want to say, probably the biggest wheeled vehicle in the Army. They enjoyed targeting that one. So that was the second deployment that unit's been on. When I talked to guys that were on the first one, apparently they found a picture of the Buffalo and they thought it was like 3 rows of guys just sitting on each other. And didn't realize that it's not that many people. So they would target the Buffalo a lot.
Yeah, because it's only like 6 guys in there, right?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
But it's not really target rich.
No, and it's so big, especially with that V-shaped hull, that it's going to take a lot to take it out. But
It's a personnel carrier.
Yeah,
Kind of, three axles. Yeah.
yes,
I had a,
but
we
it's
call it
not
something
designed
different
for
in the Marine
that.
Corps, a little bit.
so the Buffalo's sole purpose, as you said, you saw the show. It's just to get rid of the IEDs. It's got the fork on there to look for them. You can
Right.
pick them up with that if you really wanted to.
It's a really big Tonka truck with a pitchfork on it.
Yeah,
Like, if you don't understand like what it really is, like a giant truck, like
Yeah.
giant truck with these massively thick windows all around so you can see, and then it's got a big like reticulating arm with a freaking
Camera.
pitchfork on it and a camera.
Yeah.
And you just dig. No, is it one of those things where that doesn't go first, like that big the big one with the grate on the front of it goes first, right? How does that work?
So first is the Husky. So we rolled 2 Huskies up front. That's your single seater. That's got the GPR. They find a lot of the ones that are dug in. And then after that, it's usually the mine rollers. So it's the RGs that have just wheels in front of them that they go over the pressure plates or anything. They get blown up. Their whole purpose is get blown up first. So that way the truck doesn't.
Mhm.
And then after that, it's usually everybody else.
So you guys had a little bit different than the Marine Corps, because Marine Corps we had, when I was able to see it and then we watched it do some trainings, it looks like an M1 Abrams tank. And it almost identical, but it in the front has this weird like great thing, and then it has when it goes through and it deems it safe, it's as it's going, it's shooting down stakes to let you know, hey, this has been cleared, this is a fucking road that we've cleared, and you can travel on it, right? For everyone behind you. And as opposed to just being like, I think that's where their tires were or their tracks were. And it was a track based vehicle, not wheels, right? So that was, one of the things that the Marine Corps had. And but did you guys have something similar to that? Or is it just all the wheeled vehicle? Because I know you guys like wheeled vehicles like the Bradley and stuff like that. But did you guys have something similar to that little tank like thing?
So I want to say yes, but I think that was before my time. Because I've heard like my squad leader, platoon sergeant, and everything talking about it. It was called an ACE. So I wanted it had the plow on the front so you could do some digging, and then it had some launchers on the side for like smoke grenades and everything. But that was a little bit before my time. We were mainly wheeled vehicles. We were also a light engineer. You had your, I guess, heavy. They used a lot of the Bradleys and everything.
So
We were,
Wow.
being in the army and playing with all the cool toys, I have to ask, because you've worked at a nuclear power plant, where did you get to play with cooler toys?
well, definitely the Army.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because some of the guys at the nuke plants, I mean, I don't know if you're still bound not to talk about some of that stuff for security issues, because I've known some guys that have worked security gigs at our local nuclear power plant in Cali, and there's some no shit like training, no shit equipment. That job's not a joke.
No. As far as equipment wise, we didn't have anything really crazy. It's funny, just people think what we have, like they think we have like surface to air missiles and like all this random shit. Like, okay, you want to think that.
No, but you got like Barretts, right? Our guys had Barretts. They had all kinds of cool toys if they needed to take somebody out.
I don't know how much I can say. You got me on
see?
that
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
one.
We had some cool shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had some cool shit. Right. Exactly.
No, the training was great because there was a lot of your ex-military. One guy was ex-SWAT, and just people that have been in the firearms industry a lot. They were pretty much in charge of the training, so we got some pretty cool training. And it's much harder to get on a nuclear plant than it is military base. It's kind of odd, but yeah, you're not getting on a nuclear power plant if they don't want you.
No.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of different kinds of places, like a military research facility, like a Rocketdyne, one of those kind of places. When there's one I stumbled onto as a teenager up in the hills above Los Angeles that I mean, I don't know if it's there anymore, but we were out driving around looking for a spot to chill out and look over the whole valley. And we ended up at this fence, and these heavily armed dudes come out of this little shack on this dirt road, and they're like, "You need to turn the fuck around right now." And they're like pointing guns at us and shit. We're like, "What do we do?" They're like, "You need to turn the fuck around right now." They could see we were dumb kids, and they're like, this is a facility. And then my buddy's like, "Oh, that's the Rocketdyne." Like they test like top secret shit up there. And then a buddy of mine worked for a nuclear power plant. I won't say which one, but there's very few in California, so you could probably figure out it's a 50-50 shot, I think. But he, this is like they train for some shit and they prepare for some shit and they lock that place down. And if you want to get a security job that is worthy of your military credentials, or if you just want to find a security job where you get top-notch, weapons and tactics training, you can't beat working at a nuclear power plant, and it pays pretty well too.
Like the pay was amazing. So in 3 years, you topped out. I think the top out rate is 36 and change an hour. You got that in 3 years. However,
Yeah.
the reason I left is because I was there 6 days a week working 12s. Like
Right.
I'm not,
Ooh.
and I got a 8-week-old or 8-week-old now. So I was like, I'm gonna miss a lot of time with her. Like I got to find something else.
Now, is that because they were short-staffed?
Yes. So I started right before COVID, and then they were doing a hiring freeze, and then it was just a high turnover, people leaving security to go elsewhere in the plant or just retiring or whatever it is, and they just wouldn't hire anybody. So we got extremely short staffed. But
It's weird. Like I heard some crazy shit during COVID, but like I don't understand why you would be in a hiring freeze during COVID because you still have to protect vital stuff, you know.
Well, and I mean, nuclear power plants have some crazy shit that people might want to fuck with and steal and destroy. And I mean, like it's not a joke, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, people were working a lot of overtime, but we always had enough people.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, no, they had signs all over the fences saying if you were touch it, we are legally able to shoot you. And just the amount, like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
like every, I think 6 feet or so. It's just a sign that says, "Don't touch this fence, we'll shoot you."
Right.
And we could.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys are
definitely.
regulated by the Department of Energy, obviously. Right? Do you have
I'm
to
gonna
go
say-
through security checks from them?
Yes. So it was the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Committee. They
Right.
would do triannuals. So once every 3 years, they would come to the plant, check all of our shit, test everybody, do some mock drills. But we did our own every year. So we had, it's pretty much our own voluntary team of bad guys that would try and get in, test all of our things. And they knew everything. So they knew like what to do. So yeah, every year we would get tested at least once a year, getting drilled and
Tested for like radiation.
no, just tested to make sure.
Oh, sec checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Freaking that's crazy to think of. I mean, you got guys that worked at the CIA that were walking out the front door with secret documents in their briefcase. So I mean, it's not unheard of to think that a security guard at a nuclear plant wouldn't need to be sec checked. But I mean, that's part of the reason they pay you so well is they want to make sure that you're happy and not, and financially stable. But that's what I found fascinating too, is that, you had this time in the engineers, and I know you can't talk about specifics because of those kinds of, it's funny. You can talk more about your time blowing up shit in the military than you can talk about, standing a post for a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
So if you guys, like I said, if you guys want an interesting gig, that's 100% an interesting gig. And I started, look what happened. I started asking Brandon questions and he's like,
I can't talk about that.
I don't think I can.
You
talk
won't
about
make it if you try to come on here.
Yeah, exactly.
The funny thing is I was we were trying to scatter my uncle's ashes. I don't remember when it was. But it was just before 2012, or it was, just before 2012. So probably end of 2011, maybe very beginning of 2012. In San Jose, there is a lighthouse, right? Back in the day, they used to, go up there and walk around my uncle and, stuff like that. And my dad, I think, went up there a couple of times. And it was fine. And then all of a sudden they made a military installation down there and then fenced all of it off. Now, I don't know what this military installation was. We're like, let's hike up this fucking hill and try to go around the fence to get to where the lighthouse was. Made it about halfway up that hill and fucking police were down there going, what are you doing? Get down here. That's a military installation. You cannot go up there. They fucking got guns and shit. Like, and I don't know who the fuck called because there was no cops around. And it was the harbor police that came over. And so I don't know if we were probably being watched by the people up there on the fence because it was pretty up there. And they were probably like, hey, we have people coming up. We need police now, or we're going to have to fucking do some.
Did they have mind
shit.
control blimps?
No. That is fucking, it's just funny. Like those places are a big no, and you will get hurt if you go and try to fuck with those places. Like you see those people, I don't know, on Instagram, I forget, there's some Explorer page, but they always go and fuck with Area 51.
Oh, that's just dumb.
And I'm sounds like a great idea.
You're gonna get fucking smoked. And then he's like, there's a place that is on public land that's associated with Area 51, and there's the same white buses that drop people off. They're all blacked out windows, and then they show videos of it. And they're like, let's go drive through. It's on public land. They can't hurt us. And they go and try to drive through, and then there's just military dudes just staring at them like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But they never get out of their vehicle. And I'm like, bro, you are playing with fire. There's going to be a day where you stop uploading and disappear.
Yeah. They're like, we're tired.
That's definitely a fuck around, find out.
Oh, 100%. Like you don't, don't fuck with the military when it comes to their toys, right? Like I have a book that is hilarious, and I there's a sequel to it that I want to buy, but it says the title of the book is I Could Tell You, but then you would have to be destroyed by me. And it is a coffee table book of Black Ops patches. So it's a collection of patches, real genuine military unit patches. And they have a photograph of the patch on one page, and then on the opposite page they have a description of what the patch is from, what the stuff on it signifies, and all that kind of stuff. Then they have some patches where like, here's the patch, here's what's on it. We don't know what it's for. We can tell you from the symbolism, we suspect that it has to do with this, that, and the other thing, but that's about all we can tell you. Like super secret squirrel shit like that. I've got a buddy who gave me such a patch. He's in the Space Force. He gave me a patch for his unit, and it's all ominous and shit looking, and yet he can't tell me what he does, and I have no idea what his unit does. I can make a guess based on the imagery on the patch that it's something involving,
Aliens,
maybe
extraterrestrial probings.
But like there was one, check this shit out. So there's one patch where in the patch there's a sword, like there's a sword on the patch,
and a pucker,
and it's right. No, it's got a sword, and the sword's blade is made out of like lightning or whatever. Like it's a fire sword, and then the sword has this really weird looking like hilt. And then when you found out what the patch was for, because the project ended up getting declassified, these fucking assholes, the hilt of the sword was the exact shape of the aircraft, and the flaming blade represented like the afterburner on the jet aircraft. So they put what they were working on right there in the patch for everybody to see.
Is that F-15?
No, it was some weird ass experimental jet. I'll maybe see if I could dig up the book and post a picture of the patch, but it's literally like when you look up the jet that got declassified, it's this weird, jet that had like angles on the front and angles on the back, and it was kind of a rocket, and it was just the weirdest thing. But it was like, that's pretty ballsy to put the actual airframe on the patch. But there was like, whatever, fuck it, we're the military, we can do whatever we want.
Hidden in plain sight.
Right. So it's just funny to me that I find it amusing. I've worked with guys that are on police departments that retire, go to work at nuclear power plants, and they can't talk about it. Like these motherfuckers wouldn't shut up when they were working the road, working cases, and now they're at a plant. I can't say anything.
Yeah. Which is crazy going through training, because we were waiting for the background checks for everybody. And like, well, we tell you stuff, but not really sure because you all haven't passed your background checks quite fully yet. So it's a lot of silence in the classroom.
Yeah. What are we gonna learn today? I don't know. How much clearance do you guys have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you at least say what level of clearance you had to have to work there?
So it was all in-house. Like I know with most security guards, you need like a certain certification, everything. This one was all in-house. So as long as you passed your background check, and I think it was an FBI background check too, like some other shit like that, then you were privy to know the information.
Oh, so it was not government clearance necessarily. It was clearance for that facility. And did that cross pollinate? Like, did you ever get loaned out to any other facilities? Or was it just, nope, you're here, that's it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much you're there. That's it. I mean, every once in a while we get pulled to go to another nuclear plant down the coast and help out with like checking vehicles or like doing other shit like that. But yeah, for the most part, you were there.
Well, that's from the engineers to a nuclear power plant. You've certainly been able to play with some cool shit. On one job, you want to see things blow up. On the other job, the last thing you want to do is have something blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
I fuck with people all the time though, to tell them if you don't see anything coming out of the smokestack, then just run. It's fine. But it's just fun to fuck with people.
Yeah, well, people don't truly understand nuclear power at all. I've come to find out.
Yeah,
But
That's the best part of it, though. That's why you can fuck with them because they don't know.
yeah, they envision it's like like they don't even know how a nuclear reactor works. It's basically a giant steam turbine.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it.
Fucking science happens, water spins some shit, and now
Yep.
you have power.
Yep. Like it's the generation of heat that really is the dangerous part, and the rest of it is just a fucking steam turbine.
Yeah.
You know, so it's pretty crazy. But I always think of like Chernobyl. Did you watch that HBO show?
Yes.
To freak you out a
Yes,
little
I
bit?
did. A little bit, because I watched it before I got the job. And then like shortly after I watched it, my buddy's like, hey, you should apply for security for the power plant. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is how I die. But I figure if a nuclear plant's gonna go like blow up, I want to be close as possible, just get it done and over with.
Yeah, you don't want to have that slow, painful
No.
radiation death. You just want to get incinerated instantly.
Yeah, just push me out of my misery. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna get nuked, like it's better to be at ground zero than to be a couple miles away and just have your skin slough off over a couple of weeks. Like,
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Jesus.
yeah,
Well, a couple of our checks when they're doing, especially during outages, when they're refueling everything, you could actually see the glow from the fucking rods, like in all the tanks and everything. It was really
Whoa.
cool.
I mean, it would be cool, like in that weird doomsday kind of a.
I don't want to fuck with any of that.
Yeah, it's like that could kill me. All right.
All right,
It's like the Homer
this way
Simpson thing
now.
where he's like holding it.
yeah. Right on. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you coming on. You have a dedication for this episode?
Yeah. So like I said, during my deployment, didn't lose anybody. It's a great deployment. Had some other stuff happen. Maybe we can get to that later. But so when I got back, lost 3 brothers. One was due to a drowning. His name was Merriweather. One hung himself. I don't
Ugh.
really know if I want to say his name. And then one was his liver failed because he was drinking too much. So to me, that's kind of like taking the slow way. So this dedicated just to no more 22 a day. Like
Right.
if you need somebody, reach out. One thing I can't stand, I fucking hate this. When you see somebody kind of like struggling on Facebook, throwing those hints up, you just see all the comments, hey, reach out to me. Like, look, motherfucker, if they wanted to reach out to you, they fucking would have. Take the time, call them, message them, do something, reach out to them. I can't stand that shit.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. That's one of the worst things we can do is assume somebody else is taking care of it, or we, feel uncomfortable. We don't know how to reach out. We just say, I always relate things to movies. Anybody that's listened to the show for any length of time, but I remember there's one movie, a guy it doesn't matter what, but he gets this shit beat out of him, his face falling off, whatever. And he's like, fucking talk to him. And the guy's like, what do you want me to say? Because he's a bloody mess. And he goes, it's Jim, God damn it. Talk to him, right? Like, this is your fucking friend. It doesn't matter that he's beat to a pulp. It's still your friend, right? If it doesn't matter that your buddy's struggling, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter in the scheme of like, how do you talk to him? It's your fucking buddy. You just call him and be like, what's up, fucker? Like, how about that? We should start our own nonprofit called What's Up, Fucker.
I'd be down with that.
And the whole point is, it takes the stigma out of calling your buddies when they're hurting, because you just call them and go, what's up, fucker?
Exactly. Or just
There's
a
our new
simple
program.
message like, hey, you good? Just something. Don't
Yeah.
wait for them, because sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's worse
Yeah.
when you go, hey man, what's up, good? Hey man, you good? And then you get this incoherent text, and you're like,
Fuck.
oh, great.
Now,
Now I gotta call him. And you're like,
damn it, now I gotta talk.
those are
well,
those
we'll
are-
get
those
into
are
more of
interesting
that
things.
and more of the other stuff that happened to you on our next episode. But thank you for coming on, Chuck. Why don't you take us out?
Yeah. Hey, thank you all today for listening. If you like today's podcast, please go and follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you already follow us, share our posts and our info. You can also go to the link in our bio on Instagram and Facebook to reach all of our socials, our media, and our website. Our podcast is on all major podcast streaming platforms, as well as on our YouTube. If you want to support us, please go to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. Grab some gear. If If you want to be featured on a show or think you have a story or you want to share your story, please go to booking.warstories@gmail.com. You can also find that in the link in our bio and send me your story and I can get you booked. We're looking for law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, fire medics, and veterans. If you have a friend who you think would be a great fit, let them know about us and give them our booking email. Again, thank you for the support and stay safe.
Right. And Brandon, we'll talk to you shortly on our part 2 to talk about some of the other stuff that you've had going on. And for the rest of you, until our next episode, come home with your shield or on it.